Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I am the head coach at Grace Financial Coaching. And I am very honored to welcome Charlie Marlow today. Charlie wears so many different hats, but let's start at the beginning. Charlie is a retired Air Force Master Sergeant, having served over 22 years in the financial management career field. By day, Charlie still acts as a financial analyst contractor for the U.S. Air Force. And basically, it's a fancy way of saying that Charlie ensures the Air Force units properly budget and spend taxpayer dollars wisely and according to law and regulation. But by night, Charlie is also a financial counselor and a coach. He is an accredited financial counselor through the AFCPE, as well as a Ramsey Solutions trained financial coach. And most importantly, that I think, Charlie is also the co-founder and admin for the hugely popular Facebook group, Military Money Matters, which is a group over 32,500 active duty, reserve, National Guard retirees and their family members. That's how I got to meet Charlie. That group's goal is to educate and encourage members to follow common sense financial practices. And Charlie does an excellent job of that. So Charlie, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad we found some time in your schedule.
Yeah,
You've got a lot going on.
It's a hectic time of year in my business.
Yes, definitely. And I will say that when you and I first connected, you told me that the group currently had 32,000 members. And by the time I looked at the group again, it had 32,500. So you must be doing something right in there.
Well, we try.
Yes. So now tell me about how that group got started. We'll start at that point first.
I met Matt Christopherson, who's the true founder of the group. We had somehow met in another Dave Ramsey group, and he decided we ought to do a group for military. He's being retired Coast Guard, me being retired Air Force. So we got together and put it together, and it's just grown from leaps and bounds since then. We started out as a true Dave Ramsey group, and we were real strict with the baby steps. But he and I went to a Crown Financial Ministries meeting about 4 years ago. And we really liked the way that Crown marries in the biblical concepts with the finance. And really, this is where Dave Ramsey learned his thing. He just commercialized what Crown does as a ministry. So we introduced that. We changed the name of the group to reflect a little more widespread resources. And now we kind of cater to both crowds. The baby steps and the financial money map are very similar, and they are both good common sense ways to go from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Crown predates Dave.
By far.
Yeah, right. A long time. Yeah, and whoever gets that information out to everybody better, we're all going to be better for it, right? Yes. Whoever gets it out there faster and easier, we're all going to be better for it. That's for sure. I enjoy about that group that people will specifically say, hey, I have a question and this is the plan that I'm following. Hey, I have a question and that's the plan I'm following. Hey, I have a question and I don't know what plan to follow. I think it's people who answer those questions are very thoughtful when they say, okay, well, if you're following the baby steps, here's what I'd suggest. And if you're following Crown, here's where you are in that process. And so the members who have been in there for a long time, the admins like yourself, they do a great job of helping. You don't have to be a new military spouse or member to be completely overwhelmed by the process of military life and paychecks and LESs and all that fun stuff.
It's a very complicated system, the military pay system. And I spent 22 years in it, trying to take care of people and explaining to people why they got paid, how, and there's so many variables with military pay. And again, new people come in, people get married and the spouse comes in and they have no idea, of the complexity. We have a lot of resources on the webpage, some of which I've written to explain all of the benefits of why you get paid what you do. And it's very good. It's very fulfilling to be able to give back to this community that I spent so many years with and still have a real heart for.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are still technically in at least the DoD world,
Yes.
Department of Defense world during the day, but you are also coaching. Been coaching for years now, correct?
Yeah, I've been a coach now for a little over 8 years. Haven't
Nice.
taken the Ramsey Financial Master Series classes. That was October of 2014, and then 2 years ago I received my AFC certification.
Yes, tell us a little bit about that. That's not something that every financial coach holds. It's referred to as financial counseling.
Yes, it is. I realized as much as I loved and learned what I got from the Ramsey organization, I just wanted to know more.
Mm,
And the reason I got involved with them was because at one time I kind of thought that I would like to be a financial counselor at a base, working directly with the military, and I may still one day. But in order to do that, you had to have this national certification.
right.
So it's an in-depth course. It took me about 3 years to complete all the requirements, which include 3 textbooks. You have to have 1,000 hours of customer contact, and you have to pass a 3-hour exam.
Yeah, it's no joke. I've looked into it myself, and it's one of those things on my to-do list, definitely. But it is intense for sure. How do you think that training equipped you better to help people as a coach, as a counselor?
Well, having come from the Ramsey side, I knew the 7 baby steps, but they don't give you, because they don't believe in credit, and they encourage you to get out of credit situations. I learned a lot more about dealing with credit reports. Um, if I have somebody who's absolutely said, no, I want to use credit, I think I can use it wisely. I know a lot more now, so I can explain to them and work them through. This is how you can use it without cutting your hand off. It's credit is a tool, just like a power saw.
Yeah,
You can do beautiful work with one. You can also cut your arm off with it.
right.
So knowing how to use the tools is something I didn't get in the beginning, and which really gave me more access to. I really learned a lot more about the credit reports. For those who think it's important, I'm able to work with them to show them how to improve that score. For those who don't have a desire, who want that 0 credit score, I can help them with that too, and help them understand this is why other people think it's important, and this is what you can do to still have that 0 credit score, but still be where you need to be financially.
Right, that non-existent credit score that some
Yes.
people really do want to achieve, for sure. There is definitely a divide in the financial coach counselor community about utilizing credit, for sure. I think the more that I talk to people who have not gone through the Dave Ramsey training, the more I'm seeing them lean towards still advising their clients to not use credit. And that may have more to do with the economic situation that we're experiencing here at the end of 2022 than it really has to do with, hey, you can make all this money off of your airline points and things like that. But even Clark Howard, who's a famed consumer advocate, has come out recently against using credit cards too much. So how do you work with those particular clients who have shown they probably can't use their 7 credit cards wisely or their 2 credit cards wisely?
Well, we start to try to pare them down. First of all, we try to work through consolidating the cards without doing a consolidation loan.
An actual consolidation loan, right?
I have a formula that I will actually work with somebody. I say there are 3 principles to a debt consolidation that you have to stick to. One is the interest rate that you get has to be lower than the average interest rate of all of your loans. Your payment cannot go down, because the idea is not to save money per month, but to actually pay the debt off.
Right.
And it cannot extend any longer than you're currently paying these loans. Also, I like to rack them and stack them according to a balance and see if we can move that money into a lower interest rate. Then we can sit and look to see whether we want to use the debt snowball and tackle the lowest credit cards first, or if we want to go the debt avalanche method and start tackling the highest interest rates first. I've learned that if you only have 2 or 3 cards, the avalanche plan probably works better for you. If you have a lot of credit cards and you're really struggling, it's hard to beat the debt snowball.
Yeah, definitely. I had a great success with a client who, a retired military husband and spouse, living not too far from me here in North Carolina. And they went through, they had a lot, like you said, a good number of debts, as well as a higher balance, all consumer credit card, credit lines, that kind of thing. We started with the debt snowball, and about 10 months in to the coaching program that we're doing 12 months, they said, "Hey, we think we want to switch to the debt avalanche." And I say, whoa, 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 whoa. Look how great you guys have been doing on the debt snowball, right? Like, let's not poke a bear. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And sure enough, the husband pulled up the screen and said, "Look what would happen if we switched these two."
Right.
And it wasn't so much that he needed to prove the math to me, but just the fact that they had sat down and done a spreadsheet and knew what the next debt was, and that if they went to the one right after that, it would actually benefit them more. This was a couple who did not know what credit cards the other person had 10 months earlier.
That's great.
And so who cares what the method is, right? It's like I tell people about budgeting software. I don't care if you use EveryDollar. I don't care if you use Mint. I don't care if you use YNAB. I don't care if you use a piece of paper. You use what works for you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. So, Charlie, I created this show to help other people realize that we all make financial mistakes, but hopefully we can learn from the experience of others. So, Charlie, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
The dumbest thing I've ever done with money wasn't a very costly mistake in dollars, but my biggest mistake came in violating a lot of principles. I had this great idea about 20 years ago, back when savings interest rates were much better than they are now, in the 45% range. I had this credit card with a $20,000 credit limit. They gave me an offer for 0% interest, no fee, for 12 months. And I said, hey, this is a great time that I can take this $20,000, put it in a savings account, and draw the interest. Use that money to pay off the minimum balance every month. At the end of the year, I'll pay it all off. And at the end of the year, I'll have collected about $400 or $500 interest. Life looks good for Charlie. What Charlie didn't know was that this same credit card company had been calling our home every day, wanting us to sign up for credit life insurance. And my wife was at home, and she got those phone calls. And her knowing full well that we never used this credit card, that it was no harm whatsoever to go ahead, yeah, we'll sign up for the life insurance just to get you from calling me anymore.
This is back before you could report these people to the SEC for calling you too much.
Well, we had a relationship with him, so it wasn't cold calling, so it was legal.
True.
And life was wonderful for about a month until the first bill showed up. And of course, she just happened to get the mail that day and check it before I could. And not only did I get $30 or $40 interest that month, I had about $200 in credit insurance premiums on the bill, basically wiping out all of the money plus some that I had thought I was going to make. Well, I had a lot of egg on my face that I had to wash off. I had to apologize, had to pay that loan off, taking that little bit of a financial loss. And so, I learned that I learned what not to do that day with a credit card.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, 4 to 5% savings rates. Haven't seen those in a while. We may start to see those again if the Fed continues to raise the rates.
I remember, back in the early 80s, I worked for a bank, and regular savings accounts paid 5.25% interest.
Yeah,
and that's unheard of today.
Right. I get emails from a company, which I do business with, but I also do allow them to send me the marketing emails. And I distinctly remember taking a screenshot of one earlier this year and sending it to my brother and saying, oh, look, we're out of the 0.9% interest rates. We've broken into the 1.0% interest rate. And he was just cracking up. He's like, it's very difficult because a lot of people, would see something like what you did. I think this is a great example, especially in an economy that we're in right now. And they would say, well, wait, this makes more sense than throwing $20,000 into the stock market. And so what do you think is the downfall of those types? I hesitate to call it a scheme because if you sit down and do the math, it makes sense, right?
No, it made perfect sense on paper. Right. You got to have all the story. Again, I think had it been just me by myself without somebody else, that phone call about the credit insurance never would have happened, and I would have gotten back. I was lucky to escape with my life and my manhood.
Right, exactly. And just a handful of $100 or so less in your bank account.
Just a little tuition in the school of life.
Right, exactly. So, Charlie, if you could go back, what would you have done differently in that situation? Well, hindsight being 2020, obviously.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would have done was when I went and asked my wife, I said, "Hey, we can do this and make some money. What do you think?" Well, she said, "I don't like that idea." Well, I thought I was a lot smarter than her, so I went ahead and did it anyway. So that's the first thing I would say that I would change. Always be in agreement with your spouse.
Yes, I love that.
It may not always make sense to you, especially if you're like me and you're the numbers nerd. But some people put a lot of faith and a lot of focus on that security, and I think that's where she was with this. And so that was, to me, that's the biggest violation that I did, was I broke that trust between us, that the fact that she thought that I was going to treat our money better. And the other part behind it was trying to go the easy route, trying to use other people's money to make some money, and where it could have worked. In my case, it didn't.
Right.
And so it took me a long time, because this was long before I ever heard of Dave, but it took me a while to get a healthy view of credit again, and to be able to use it wisely. So now I can use a card to buy something and know I have the money in the account that's going to pay for it, and not really worry about it. But it's there was a time in my life that I saw it, I bought it and put it on the credit card. And matter of fact, I bought a car. Was the very first thing I bought with a credit card. Was a car. It was a $75 remote control Ford Mustang.
You should just walk up to people and tell them, I bought a Mustang with a credit card one time.
But that was my very first purchase, and it was unnecessary. I was active duty at the time. I could have paid cash, but no, I got a credit card, and I'm paying $15 a month on it. And, it's just, and then I'd see something. Hey, I want that. I want Christmas came along, birthdays, with three daughters. I have one with whose birthday is 2 weeks before Christmas, and another 2 weeks after Christmas. So
brutal.
December hurt in our family, especially.
My goodness.
Especially as a low ranking enlisted person, and so, Christmas was on Visa just about every year, and about June or July, okay, we finally got it paid off. But when I started to learn to do sinking funds and start putting money aside for future purchases, life got so much easier.
Yeah. If anybody has watched more than one episode of this show, they know, to me, sinking funds can arguably be more important than an emergency fund. And the reason for that is, when you sit down and think about it, there are very, very, very few things that are actual true emergencies that we couldn't sit down ahead of time and say, well, the car's 13 years old. It's not going to last forever. But then when my client calls me and says the transmission fell out of the car, they're shocked. Right. But if we had sat down, and I kind of refer to it for the younger millennials and Gen Z people, this is what adulting with money looks like. Yeah. Sitting down and saying, I can get a nail in the sidewall of my tire in the next 30 minutes as soon as I walk out the store. I'm driving a 13-year-old car. The transmission could fall out of it. It's not likely if I maintain my car, but it could, right? Yeah. Someone could rear end me. All three of those things are technically not emergencies if you sit down and you say, okay, this is stuff that happens in the normal process of life, and I need to have a vehicle maintenance fund sitting in my sinking funds. Yeah.
That's the very first sinking fund I ever did was many years. It was probably before Dave ever came around and coined the term, but it was, I had put 6 months worth of car insurance on my credit card because I didn't have the money in the bank to do it. And it was at that time that I had first learned about Crown, and the sinking fund concept was brought up. And so for the next 6 months, not only did I pay the bill, but I tried to put enough aside for the next time the insurance came around, it would be there. And the first time I was able to pay cash for that insurance premium, a burden was just lifted off of me. It was just, wow, what a great concept. I could do this for Christmas.
Oh.
And so that was one of the things my wife and I did. It was every January we would make a Christmas list with 3 kids and 9 grandchildren. We listed everybody's name across the top. In January, we made a budget. We said we're going to spend only this much money per person. We added it all up. We added some money for decorations, for wrapping paper, for Christmas parties and things.
Yes.
Added it all up, divided it by 12, and every month we put that amount of money aside. And when December rolled around, we were set.
Yeah.
And
I tend to have my clients do 10 months just because people tend to start shopping in November and December with Cyber Monday and all that kind of stuff now. But 110%, I have a sinking fund sheet for my clients, and I have what I call a holiday gift tracker sheet for my clients. And I have names in there, whether they're your kids' names or not. You go in and you change those names.
Absolutely right.
And I even do. I've even really tried to perfect it just for myself. The people who you forget about. Oh man, we really should get a gift card for the mail carrier. We really should get a gift card for the dog walker.
Yeah.
I have a whole section at the bottom of who have you forgot? How many teachers do your kids have, especially if they're in elementary school? I had one client it's a charter school, and so they suggest the tip amount for the teachers. The teachers aren't at this particular not making a ton of money. It ended up being an extra $210 that we just completely forgot because it didn't even dawn on us. It was her first year at the school. So do we have to learn those lessons the hard way? Right? Okay, another $210 we need to add to the sinking fund for next Christmas.
But next year it's there and it's done. So I'm with you. Yeah, a sinking fund is as important as an emergency fund, and sometimes more important, when something little happens.
Right. Or the ability to pay that 6-month insurance bill without even blinking, right? Just pay yourself back, put it right back in the checking account. So one thing you said earlier, Charlie, before I let you go, talk to me a little bit about how the communication when you're coaching a couple, and this can be, civilians, this can be with military, but what are the changes you see in your clients when you're coaching couples in terms of communication and things like that?
I tell them it's okay to disagree. And the idea is to get these disagreements out, and then between them work out a plan, and not to assume that the other person is doing what you want.
Or to assume the other person wants what you want.
Or wants what you want. And I tend to use the connection of your financial journey like taking a vacation. Every couple wants to take that dream vacation. It might be to the Bahamas, it might be to Disney World or whatever. And so I tell them, ask them, what are the 2 most important things you need to know before you go on vacation? You tell me what you think the most 2 important things are.
How much it's going to cost.
Okay.
And what you're going to do. What
you do? Close.
Okay. How you're going to get there?
The 2 most important things you need to know when planning a vacation is 1, where do you want to go? What's your goal?
Right.
And the second most important thing you need to know is, where am I right now? Because if you want to go to Disney World and you don't know which direction to travel, if you got on 64 and started heading west on 64, I think it goes east and west. You'd never get to Disney World.
Well, you could get to Disneyland, but it would take you a long time.
What's that?
You could get to Disneyland, but it would take you a really long time.
But not Disney World, yeah. Or but so I tell couples that you need to know where you are right now, and that includes all your debts, all your secrets. Couples tend to keep secrets from each other. So credit cards the other doesn't know about. I encourage them, let's not have any of those secrets. Let's just get everything out in the open, and let's take a good look at where we are now, and then together decide where you want to go, or at least which direction you want to go. I mean, your ultimate goal might be to have a fully funded emergency fund, and you're putting money into your retirement, and you're driving nice cars. But we got to get you on the road to get there, and we got to help you avoid the detours, avoid the wrong turns along the way. And so I like to work with them and say, okay, you're a team, and let's work together. And I wish I had done that better in with my wife, but we live and we learn as we go along.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, the benefit of that mistake back in the 80s with the $20,000 credit card advance. Luckily, your mistake wasn't too costly in terms of dollar amounts, right? I've spoken to a bunch of people on this show where it was pretty astronomical, but yeah, no, that was a better lesson to learn further back, right? And then now you can look down at your financial history and say, wow, man, I'm glad I made that mistake when I did.
Yeah. Another thing I tell couples is it doesn't have to be complicated. Like you mentioned, you didn't care what app somebody used. I tell people the best app to use is the one you're going to use.
Right.
whether that's an Excel spreadsheet like I use, or whether it's a piece of paper. For many years, I kept my budget in a notebook. And just as long as you have a plan and you're working together, it's somebody once said that success is the consistent application of the basic fundamentals. You don't have to create anything fancy. You don't need fancy tools, but you do need a plan.
Yeah, definitely. And I would add, you need the discipline or the accountability to stick with the plan. And that's where coaching and those experiences come in. And that's what you're doing. So awesome, Charlie. Thank you so much for your time today. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. If you are in the military or you are a spouse of a military member, please make sure to check out the Military Money Matters group on Facebook. And thanks again, Charlie, for your honesty and sharing your dumbest thing you've ever done with money.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.